Qual o significado do público para o cinema?
Sem o público não tem sentido. O público é o complemento de tudo.
Que é muito rico contar uma história para pessoas tão diferentes e que vão receber de forma também muito diferente.
O medo, a emoção, a gargalhada, isso é cinema. Isso é o público quem dá.
Nós, artistas, fazemos tudo com esse intuito, de conseguir com que o público vá além de si mesmo.
Não há nada como vocês.
É para você que as histórias são criadas. É por você que o cinema existe. Nossa homenagem a quem mais inspira o cinema, o público.
Olá, boa tarde, bem-vindas, bem-vindos, bem-vindos, buenas tardes, good afternoon. This is a new panel, part of Reach, this part of Beer Lab dedicated to think and discuss audience matters. I'm really happy to present this panel focused on festivals, on the work of programmers. We have here today 3 amazing programmers, and said Cecilia Barronego and Susana Rodrigues, with the moderation of Julia Duarte. This is also an amazing activity we are doing together with Industry Academy, Locarno Industry Academy, which is one of the 4 workshops we hold in Beer Lab every year. We are super happy with this partnership, and only to say that this is only possible thanks to the sponsor and partnership with Projeto Paradiso, with Programa Ibermédia, with Prefeitura de São Paulo, SPCine, and many other institutions that support us. Our program continues until the end of this week. Nossa programação continua até o final dessa semana. Vale dizer que tomorrow, I'm just checking my website, my program here is in Portuguese, so I'll say the names of the panels in Portuguese, so you can also follow the Brazilian audience. Tomorrow we have an important panel with Ademar Oliveira, Sara Silveira, Eric Rocha, moderação de Ivan Melo, para discutir perspectivas para o cinema brasileiro em 2020, nesse momento em que o cinema brasileiro é tão atacado. On November 18, we have another panel with two professionals from Curzon in the United Kingdom, and we will be discussing how to create an environment in which the theater, the cinema, and the VOD can cohabit in the new world. They will share with us some of the knowledge they've learned during this pandemic. Also, we have Inside Reach on November 19, an important discussion about building niche audience in the digital ambient, with Marcos Duffner from Spamflix, Bobby Ali from Mubi, and Eduardo Constantino from Cabinet. And on Friday, we finished this program with Sara Calderon discussing the market of film in 2020, promotion, digital transition, and online markets. This panel now is also very important. I'm super happy to have everybody here. Julia, could you come here, help me present the panel and the discussions we are having? Julia is the project manager from Industry Academy, a great partner. And where is Julia?
Olá, Rafa.
Yes, oi, Ju.
Hey, tudo bom?
Tudo bem?
So let's switch into my wonderful English. First of all, on behalf of the Industry Academy team, we're super happy to take part of BR Lab and Reach with all these amazing partners you have, Rafa. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to mention that for the audience here, that this panel was initially thought to be a closed meeting for the Industry Academy participants. That in the Industry Academy, we make closed sections for the participants. But then we decided to make it open to Reach. And therefore, I'd like to apologize because there's no translation into Portuguese. And it's going to be like a trilingual kind of panel, with the Portuñol, Spanglish, English, and so I hope that's fine for our audience. But we thought it was a good discussion to open for everybody, because this year, as everything in this industry this year, festivals have been super affected by the COVID, because it's not only about showing films but also gathering audience. So it's important to talk about them and also to have a conversation about the challenges of festivals. When inside BR Lab or Industry Academy, we talk with a lot of producers or people in the industry that really like the programming part of the job, but it's a kind of the industry, but it's a kind of a tough job. That's why we planned this conversation with three amazing women and friends, and I'm super honored to share this virtual table with Andel Seth, who was Deputy Director of Freiburg International Film Festival from 2008 to 2011, Director of Masters in Film Studies in Lausanne, where she still runs an art house cinema, joined the selection of Locarno for the 2018 edition, is now programmer for Angers Premier Plan, consulted for the NIF and Ulaanbaatar Film Festival in Mongolia, and she's a member of the Cannes Directors Fortnight selection team since 2012. Then we have Cecilia Barrio Nuevo, who was a programmer for Neighboring Scenes, New Latin American Cinema at the Film Society of Lincoln Center, New York, at the Documenta Madrid, and at the Antofagasta in Chile. And she's been a member of the programming team of the Mar del Plata Film Festival in Argentina since 2010. And then she became artistic director in 2 years ago, right? And Susana Santos Rodriguez, who currently acts as the Latin America Scout for Rotterdam Film Festival and programming advisor to the Bildrausch. I don't know how to mention that because my German is not, it doesn't exist actually. And in Switzerland, as well, part of the selection committee of the Hubert Bals Fund, and maybe member of the reading committee for Doha Film Institute. She's also worked for Carlo Vivari, Rio Film Festival, Cinema do Real, etc. So I'm really
amazing.
So it's a
I'm leaving.
Wonderful.
I'll be here in the backstage moderating the questions. Thank you.
Oh.
And see you later.
Ciao, Rafa. Thanks. And thank you for the three of you to be a part of this conversation. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you. And first of all, I'd just like to ask you to present yourselves. Maybe we can start with Dan, and a little bit of your personal trajectory and the profile of your festivals. Just a quick introduction. Maybe we can start with Dan.
Hello. Can you hear me? Everything is okay? Okay, yes. Cool. Hello. Well, I'm happy to be here. Of course, I would prefer to be with you, but since I'm not sure where you all are, I can't be everywhere. So I'm here in Paris now. So I think the curriculum was quite large. I've been working in cinema for 30 years now, a really long time. And now I'm right now I'm finishing the selection for Angers Film Festival, which is a festival dedicated to first-time and school movies and short films, but from Europe only, so not quite the subject today. And I'm also a part of Directors' Fortnights in Cannes, so part of the selection committee. It's been really quite a while. I've been working there first with Edouard Weintrop, who was my former boss, who was the delegate first there. For 7 years, 8 years, 7. And now I'm with Paolo Moretti, who's the new director of Directors' Fortnights. And as you know, Directors' Fortnight is one of Cannes Film Festival selections. So there are different kinds. The official selection is Cannes Official and Un Certain Regard. And there's also Critics Week, which is dedicated to first-time films, and Directors' Fortnight, which is it was created in 1969 due to a protest, like in May '68. As you know, there was a big protest in France and quite elsewhere, and they managed to cancel the Palme d'Or that year. And from the next year, they decided to create a new section. They is a guild of French directors, and they decided to create a new section, which was really dedicated to freedom of speech and a bit the punk section. So it's a parallel section now of Cannes. It still is, so we don't communicate together with the other section, just so you know. Maybe we'll get back to that after. But and we are a team of 5 or 6 programmers, and there's also some, we work together from, should I enter in those details already? I'm not sure, but anyway. So we work together from February to May, yes, and there are a lot of correspondence for different sections and different places of the world also. So we're a basic team of 5 and a lot of correspondence like that. And otherwise, I work for I program for a cinema in Lausanne, which of course in Switzerland, which is now closed, of course, like everything else. But yes, surviving like all of you. I think that's it. Well, I could say a lot, but then too much details already.
Thanks. Thanks, I guess, for the introduction. I think it's fine. I'll pass over to Cecilia. Con Cecilia igual hablamos en castellano, así para cambiar un poco el mood.
Y cambiando un poco. No, muchas gracias por la invitación. Voy a hablar en castellano, un poquito más confortable. Y yo comencé hace muchos años ya a trabajar en programación. En 1995 comencé a trabajar en un cineclub. Fue mi primer acercamiento a este oficio de programador. Y después estudié un máster en cine documental en Barcelona. Posteriormente, en 2010, comencé a trabajar en el Festival Internacional de Cine de Mar del Plata, en Argentina. y desde allí, desde ese momento comencé a formar parte del equipo de programación, 6 programadores y programadoras que íbamos realizando todo el festival, selección de películas, de jurados, actividades especiales y todo lo relacionado al festival desde la parte artística. Y en 2018 me invitaron a trabajar como directora artística del festival. Entonces, esta va a ser la 3ª edición como directora artística. Por otra parte, otras experiencias en programación. Hace también 3 años que junto a Carlos Gutiérrez de Cinema Tropical realizamos Neighboring Scenes en el Lincoln Center Film Society, que es un showcase de cine latinoamericano, allí en Nueva York. Y este año estoy trabajando junto a James Latimer como curadora invitada para Documenta Madrid, en España. Y por otra parte, realizo una publicación bilingüe junto a 2 amigos más que se llama Las Naves, donde escriben solo cineastas. Es como cineastas bajo un tema determinado. Eso ya lo llevamos hace varios años. Doy clases de cine y participo en distintos festivales de diferente manera. Y me parece que es interesante este tipo de encuentros o discusión, también en cuanto a que cuando comencé a trabajar, ser programador de cine no existía como un trabajo, como una carrera, creo, como una profesión. Era algo más que uno comenzaba a hacerlo desde una cinefilia. Y me parece que es importante, desde mi punto de vista, defender ese lugar de cinefilia al momento de realizar mi trabajo. Eso, Julia, y muchísimas gracias por la invitación.
Gracias, Cecilia. Pasamos a Susana.
No se te escucha, Susana.
I should unmute myself and I forgot. Hello. So I actually studied also, something completely literature. But from that cinephile that Cecilia was talking about, I started as a teenager working at a short film festival in my hometown. Not in programming, like from taking people to the stage or welcoming or doing whatever translation at whatever was necessary. And from then I ended up working in film festivals, distribution, communication, press agent, a lot of things. So I worked a lot in Latin America. I'm now assisting the Latin American programmer at the Rotterdam Film Festival. We are also closing programming for this new upcoming 2021 edition, which is also slightly different from the usual edition. This is my first year in Rotterdam also. So, and I've been working as a Latin American delegate at Cinema do Real, Carlo Vivari, as a programmer at the Rio Film Festival, as a distributor of small art house films in Latin America. So a bit of everything, and that's, I guess we can move on.
Thanks, Susana.
Thank you. I need to unmute myself, sorry.
Sorry, we are at the same place, confined in Lisbon, both of us. So we have to unmute and mute our mics when we speak. Sorry for the audience. I'd like to make this virtual table as much as possible as a conversation. So all the questions made here are going to be for all of you. I think from like the beginning, as we are this week closed in the Industry Academy discussing a lot of things about the industry. And I think one of the important things already that we can mention in this table is that, which I think it's important that Cecilia said about the cinephilia, and this is also what moves you into programming. And that's the beautiful part of it. But then when you see what your trajectory is and what you do, it's like it's a tough job that you have to combine. It's not guaranteed. Like let's be a programmer for directors Fortnite, and that's it. And your life it's it, and it's not like you're combining. It's kind of a tough job to live your life out of it as well. So this is a first thing that I think it's important for us to think about, that I'm not sure that's so obvious when you think it from the outside. As we are here in a Latin American event, we've been discussing that a lot inside the Industry Academy, but I think BR Lab as well. I would like to ask you, what do you think about a Latin American cinema? Do you see a Latin American cinema, or you see different kinds of cinematographies that are separated, or can we say that there's an European kind of cinema and there's an Asian cinema, a Latin American cinema? What do you think?
Comienzo.
Maybe I can start with Cecilia.
No, pero perdón, es que hace poco estaba en una conversación también que preguntaban sobre qué era el cine latinoamericano o qué era para mí el cine latinoamericano. Y me quedé callada al principio porque es enorme Latinoamérica, es muy diversa, era una conversación con Estados Unidos, y era imposible explicar qué es el cine latinoamericano como una unidad, porque mismo si pienso en películas realizadas en México, en Bolivia, en Argentina, en Paraguay, Ecuador, es que cambia muchísimo, tanto en los modos de producción como en los discursos, como en lo que también las formas de hacer cine, de entenderlo y los discursos que circulan, pero también lo pensaba inclusive en el mismo país. Hay países que quizás son más pequeños o tienen menos diversidad cultural, pero Argentina es un país totalmente diferente en cuanto a lo que es la capital, Buenos Aires, con el resto de las provincias. Supongo que en Brasil debe ocurrir también, que no es lo mismo un cine que viene de diferentes regiones de Brasil. Entonces, siento que es muy complicado hablar hoy en día, por un lado, de qué es el cine latinoamericano, por la diferencia, y qué es el cine latinoamericano por las coproducciones también. Creo que entran en juego las dos cosas, porque la mayoría del cine, o mucho del cine que creo que se hacen en nuestros países, también está coproducido por fondos europeos o norteamericanos o asiáticos, y que eso modifica mucho también la personalidad, en algunos casos, no siempre, de las películas. Y también son películas que son europeas, latinoamericanas, o norteamericanas, latinoamericanas. Bueno, eso. Perdón.
No, yo creo que igual voy al español ahora y después vuelvo al inglés. Perdón. Pero yo creo que eso es interesante. Yo me acuerdo también que tuvimos una conversación en una Industry Academy hace 2 años contigo, Cecilia. Que igual es interesante también hablar con Susana Yan, que están en Portugal y Francia, Suiza, y también qué es el cine latinoamericano que se ve y el cine latinoamericano que viaja y que en este sentido se agrupa, pero que necesariamente no es el cine latinoamericano que se hace, ¿no?
Claro.
Maybe, I don't know if you and Anne and Susana that are not part of Latin America, but sees the Latin American cinema that arrives for festivals, if this has a kind of unification, if we can see that, or no, or it's completely different, or between.
I think I would say that if there is like a label, then we would not like to program it, you know? It would be like a default to say like, oh, this is a typical Argentinian film, this is a typical Chilean film, or this. And I think if we notice that, we would tend to not program it. It would be more because I think what the aim of a programmer is, of course, to see thousands of new movies and change your world and fill your brain with a lot of things, different things. But it's also, I think, very egocentrically the will to discover something very, very amazing and very for the first time and something like that. So I think as a programmer, we are always looking for something that will be the next big, or something promising, something we haven't seen yet. And that's why I think if I could see that there would be something like not maybe a Latin American cinema, but maybe from countries, something that could be identified as the Nouvelle Vague from Argentina or something like that. But this kind of cinema would be now something more like imitation of a big movie that worked, like I'm guessing maybe there will be a lot of new Bacurau soon or something like that, as there has been a lot of new films a bit imitating in the style of something like that. But also, I would say that in a team of programmers, for example, like Directors Fortnights, we tend to be in festivals from Europe, for example, we tend to be a team from Europe. So it's very difficult for me to say that this film seems very different from what is made in Brazil, even though I see maybe 100 films from Brazil that year. Sometimes I know when I see a film that I'm like, oh, I've never seen this before. And somebody from Brazil would say, oh, come on, it's really like typical Brazil. So you always have to put yourself back in perspective. And I couldn't say, as a Swiss girl living in Paris, what is now happening in Brazil or in Chile, or, it's always about putting yourself back in where you are, in fact. So I really hope there's not a label, and I hope every single country in the world can express itself exactly how it has to do it. But the only thing is to not try to imitate a style in order to create a label to be the American movie or the blah, blah, blah. That's what I would say. But of course...
And I guess it's also...
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. I just have to unmute myself when I speak. You can finish, Anne.
No. I think I'm finished. Go ahead. It was about the co-production, so I think it's true that co-production. Then you are in labs, and you have a lot of European people saying, "Oh, you should do it like this," and maybe it tends to make a package of. And a loss of identity, maybe I think maybe that can happen. Mm-hmm. But there are also a lot of labs like this one, or like works in progress that happen in Belo Horizonte and I don't know where. So a lot of them. So I don't know. I mean, do they shape the projects over there also? For me, it's really far away. I'm not so sure about that.
And I was complimenting on your idea to to have a dialogue with the other programmers, and with, I guess you also have a delegate for Latin America, so you would also converse with this person and talk a bit about, hey, this film coming from Brazil, we thought it was amazing and original, and I guess they would give their input on that also, which could be interesting. I always compare it also a bit in regards to the Latin American cinema label and genre and concept to Portugal, which is such a tiny country that also has mainstream cinema that doesn't travel to festivals. So all we see from Portugal are the festival export cinema. But we also have, I mean, it's tiny, and compared to Argentina, for instance, I was amazed when I arrived there, and it was the number of productions per year was like 1/10 of what we produced in Portugal. But still, in this tiny country, we would have export films for festivals, and we also have the mainstream. And I think we can always find all types, and we could also say that these more festival-prone films could be somewhat made to please a festival, but I think it's a never-ending discussion, I guess. So I think you need to kind of trust in the filmmaker and what they are giving you, and the funds, and this can also be another discussion about how to shape a national cinematography. It's it's another discussion still.
Yeah, but I think somehow it's an interesting discussion, considering that festivals, festivals most of the time are a window not only for people to get to know a cinematography, but also to sell in markets and stuff and distribute films. So I think it's an interesting discussion to talk about to you as film programmers, if you think that sometimes like things are super like homogeneous, like we get so much films about, I don't know, favelas in Brazil or I don't know, some do you think that there is this kind of sorry?
Pandemic time, lockdown, this moment.
Exactly.
For the nuclear.
No, I think on the global thing, it's always a surprise to see. We can see the exact same film from Brazil and from Netherlands, and it's always about a tragedy. No, but no, I would say there are some themes like that. That of course,
but that's another subject. Tragedies are so much liked by festivals than comedies.
Absolutely.
For instance. That's another discussion. To like, it's not that I hope we all love comedies, but I guess comedies can be the most difficult. I think it's so much harder to make a comedy than to make a drama. It's so much easier to make someone cry than to make someone laugh all over the world.
Yeah.
And the genre of tragedies and dramas is so much more liked in festivals somehow. It's another food for thought.
Absolutely, but I think it's also, yeah, as you said, comedy is more local because it plays with people that everybody knows, or accents, or things like that create a bond, and that's why comedies are more difficult to export, I would say. But otherwise, it was just to say that for Julia's question, that we're not for sure not expecting, when we see a Brazilian movie, I'm not expecting to see a favela movie, really not. And I really hope nobody makes a film saying, I'll do that, so I'll be programmed there. It doesn't work like that. To make a film, you have to have an emergency of something to say, and then if it's in a favela, then okay, just do it. But I think really, as a programmer, I'm not expecting anything from any cinema in the world except just a good film, if possible, something new, an emergency to say something. And for me, it's also quite important to have a contemporary view on something of the world now, I would say. But we're not expecting anything from any country, and that goes for Switzerland or Italy or South Korea and something like that. So that's I think the most important.
I'll still stick a little bit in the Latin American kind of a subject.
Forget about it.
Just because we are in a Latin American event, and but also to discuss some more widely questions that the I think there are this urgency in the world right now about identities and diversity. And in Latin America, for instance, there's been a movement, important movement of giving voices to the cinema made by Afro-descendant people, by native, indigenous people. And about this question, maybe I would divide Cecilia with Susana Enan, because Cecilia, as a director in a festival in Latin America, maybe has a different experience or not. But I'd like to ask you: do you have access? Like, are those films arriving to you? Films made by the Afro community or the natives community in Latin America, for instance?
A ver, pensando cuando uno hace submission, se abre submission del festival, no es una gran cantidad de films que arriban de comunidades nativas. Pienso que hay un problema mayor aún, que es que la mayoría de los films que uno recibe, amplío un poco tu pregunta, Julia, que inclusive pertenecen como a una clase media y una clase media alta, como que hay un gran problema también de los discursos que circulan desde ese lugar, que quienes quizás también trabajan, no digo todo el mundo porque no todos los cineastas y las cineastas, pero la mayoría que trabaja con comunidades no pertenecen a las comunidades también. Es como un poco difícil, entonces siguen siendo discursos foráneos. Pensaba en Chuba y Cantoria, que de Joao Salavisa y Nader Masmora, que ellos trabajan, o sea, conviven hace años con la comunidad, o lo que fue Martirio, por ejemplo, pensando en films de Brasil, que han sido muy fuertes en su abordaje de la problemática de pueblos nativos, pero no son muchos los filmes que uno recibe que tienen esa impronta o ese origen, esa naturaleza, por lo menos en Argentina. Y afro, yo creo que es más difícil todavía porque la comunidad afro en Argentina no está tan presente, probablemente con Brasil, es diferente desde ese lugar. Sí, son diferentes pueblos originarios, pero tampoco tienen una gran voz en el cine propia, quizás más representación de ellos que películas realizadas por ellos.
And maybe you, Susana or Anne, do you have access to it, or?
I made I'm in not my own computer, so I made it all go away. Yes, no, what Cecilia was saying, that most films from indigenous communities are not even made by them. They're always a foreigner, despite, like João Salavisa, these are people who are living there for many years and who can, I guess, speak and portray with some knowledge, but these are not from them inside also. So there is still a lot of work, I guess, to be done in this area. It's the subscription to a film festival might be an alert that can detect something that is far beyond to be worked on, I guess.
I would say for us, it's really the movie. When it's not the same to work for a selection. For Cannes, it's only 20 movies. So when you work for a film festival, you can have different programs and different kinds of programs where you can put different kind of films. And when you work as for Directors Fortnight, Quinzaine des Réalisateurs, since there are only 20 films, it's not the same as a programming with different themes and things like that. So we would, I think, the context context in which the movies are made is really not so important as the film itself. And we wouldn't take a movie because it's the first time made movie in this country or something like that. If the film is great, then we would be really happy to say that, oh, look, we have the first film that was made, blah, blah, blah. But otherwise, I think this is not the criteria for a section like ours right now, since we only take 20 movies. It's really movies first, not that politics is not important, and quotas and things like that are of course important, but only 20 movies out of 2,000, it makes the choices quite difficult. And yes, the context of the filmmaking is not always relevant for directors' fortnights, I mean.
Well, there's a question here that I could leave it to the end, but I think maybe we can relate to this, which is Gabriel Gomez, who asked about what brings your attention when selecting a film. For instance, now just when Anne, you were talking about like we have to select 20 films. So what would be like the thing that you think it's this film must be something, you know? It's I think it's a kind of a tough question, but maybe.
Yes. Well, in the programming process, it's always interesting to see a movie by somebody you met. So I think this is the first layer. If you met somebody in a trip or in a lab or something like that, or in these kinds of conversation, then if you have the project in the eye because it was somewhere else already, then of course it gets out of your pile of 700 films to watch in the day. You say, of course, you have to choose 7 first, and you choose the ones that you know because you remember this person, it was nice, or you know you will have to give a feedback to this person, so you watch it differently. So this is the first thing I would say. Then of course the films that have world sales are to be very honest, films that are watched with different attention also, not really different attention, but it's true that the pressure is really different when a world sales will call you twice every hour to say, did you see it? Did you see it? So this also catches our attention. And of course, the thing is, since there are so many different labels, because festivals are an important step, but it's quite at the end of the list, because before that you have script labs, you have to find a producer, you have to maybe you were in a work in progress thing, and blah blah blah. So the visibility was given maybe to your film in different stages, and if a film managed to have all this, then of course we can pay attention to this, if it has a huge producer or not. But then all the films are watched, and then to speak only about the content, it's a bit difficult to say, but it's sometimes quite random, because sometimes since, as I said, our contracts are very short, so we have maybe 3 months to watch more than 2,000 movies. So I'll just let you guess how much that is per day, and it's really a lot of movies per day. So sometimes you watch a movie where a child dies and the parents are sad. That comes from Netherlands, and right after you see another child dead, and then maybe the 5th time you see a film where a child is dead, then of course you just can't cope anymore. And even though the film is good, you're like, oh no, I can't take this anymore. Just to say, it's not always about the quality of the film, but sometimes it's really very random. It depends on what you ate for breakfast, and we are not machines. And hopefully we try as a team to not get too tired all together at the same time. But sometimes we get impatient, and we, of course, are not connected to our emotions. But I think the most important would be for me to be surprised on something, which is quite difficult because I see so much movies, then I'm like, oh, guess what? He's going to die, blah, blah, blah. So I really try to keep my eyes fresh and to be surprised by or a dialogue or an emotion. And for me, I'm a bit I don't know if I should say girly. I shouldn't say girly. I don't know what I am, but I try really to be connected to my emotions when I see a movie, and it could be frightening or surprising or something. And I don't have to like it, but at least it has to make me feel something. And after 2,000 movies, sometimes you just can't. You're just a stone and you don't feel anything anymore. So, but otherwise, yes, the criteria is to have an emergency to tell a story about the world, and to be sure that you'll make me listen about it, and not just, oh, I happen to do this. Oh, I just happened to say this, and it could have been a radio podcast, but I chose cinema or something like that. So you have to have a super story, and cinema has to be the only way you can make it, and then go.
Sometimes you think it has to be an original approach, but at the same time, you also shouldn't value just originality or creativity. So that's what Anne is saying about randomness. It's because there's no recipe at the same time, because otherwise I think our jobs could be done by a machine, because it doesn't have to be a really outlandish idea, original. It also can be the simplest and most delicate, subtle story that you have heard before, but somehow it reaches you and it finds its way in a proposal that is that somehow gets you. So there is really a lot of, there's really not a recipe. There is, of course, you would like to be surprised, but it doesn't have to be a surprise. It doesn't have to be crazy. But I guess it also depends on the festival you're aiming for or programming. As Anne was saying, that the Quinzaine is such a specific 20 slots only, so limited that it's already very narrow, the scope. For instance, in Rotterdam, or in general, I have such a backstage action that I do not have to deal with the sales agents or suffer so much of, oh, I know this person. I mean, I wish all my friends, all the people I know make good films. I really wish they do. But if they don't, I think I'm more upset for them than I think they would be for me, I guess. But it's thinking of Rotterdam, for instance, it's a very specific festival that tries to find new auteurs and new ways of telling stories and pushing boundaries and being a bit more daring, less conventional, less standard. So there you would go for that, but you can also find there the example of also a delicate and minimal storytelling film. So I guess I let Cecilia continue, but there's not a recipe for what a filmmaker, producer, or a programmer should be looking for, I guess.
Sí. Mar del Plata también es muy diverso porque es un festival con un público muy amplio, la audiencia es muy amplia, que va desde cinephiles hasta público muy general y de gente, de niños, también hasta gente muy grande, muy mayor. Y es un festival que también en su programa va buscando como poder ofrecer o poder compartir películas que quizás hay algunas de género y hay otras experimentales, y hay de little format y hay retrospectivas, y hay nuevos autores, y hay autores súper conocidos. Entonces, desde ese lugar no hay tanta limitación en cuanto al qué tipo de película se busca, pero sí creo que lo que hay es una un tipo de película donde probablemente en general emerja más lo autoral que el issue de la película. Como no es un festival que esté buscando, tampoco necesitamos que sean premier mundial, que es diferente, por supuesto, al caso de Rotterdam o de la Quincenna. Entonces no hace falta, no hay una pelea por premier, no hay una necesidad de depender exclusivamente de agent sales. Trabajamos muchísimo directamente con cineastas. Algunos ni siquiera tienen productores o productoras muy importantes o grandes, sino son más también como muy independientes desde ese lugar. Entonces, con cineastas, con productores y con, de alguna manera, pienso un poco familias de cine también que se van organizando en cuanto a no amistad, sino a cierta búsqueda cinematográfica particular. Pensando quizás, por ejemplo, no sé, desde Argentina, les podría poner un ejemplo, lo que puede ser el cine de Matías Piñeiro, con el cine que realiza el Pampero Cine, Mariano Ginás y Alejo Mogillansky, Laura Chitarella, como que hay una búsqueda que es diferente en cada uno de ellos, pero a su vez hay una forma de entender el cine o hacer cine que es interesante y que nos gusta, donde emerge más la visión personal o grupal, colectiva, pero quizás sin un carácter tan comercial o con una búsqueda más comercial o con, no sé si es comercial la palabra, pero pienso que es donde la historia, el it's about, no es lo que prima, no es lo que está por encima de la película. Se me ocurre un poco eso.
Sí. Y hay otra pregunta que también podría relacionar con eso antes de cambiar un poco el tema, que es una pregunta de Arapuá Films, que es Enrique, que está en el Industria Academy, que es como, ustedes reciben películas también por submissions, ¿no? Que llegan de la nada, ¿no? Aparte de las que
No,
llegan
I
de
understand.
Sensei.
No.
Sorry, just... I just completely forget what language I'm talking about. Anyway, like, but you receive films from submission, and apart from the word of scouting, talking to sales agents, and etc. And he asks, I don't know if it's possible for you to define that, but it's like mainly you mainly select for submission out of the submissions or out of the films you watch in festivals. Do you have kind of an estimate about that, or it's completely random?
Well, for us, so since we only take world premieres, we don't scout in other festivals, but films, but projects for sure. Yes, we travel a lot to works in progress labs, and we're invited in different kind of things like this one, and yes, I think it's really important. I would say. Again, all the movies are really watched, and that's already quite a lot. But there are for sure films we are following, and the big majority of the selection we have is from films we already heard about in by some way, because we do all the markets also. As a programmer, we travel to different markets, so we all the different kinds of layers have already done their job. So we are the final stage of the job, just before the distribution. So just one tip I would give to people from the industry is to really give the biggest visibility to your project before you send it. And don't forget to just send the word. Remember we met here. I sent my films, and I say that a lot, and I get really a lot of messages, and I really don't answer to them all, and I'm sorry, but it is important to remind yourself to a programmer, because it makes a difference, I think, really, not because it's being friends or something like that. It's just because we have 2,000 films, and if one rings a bell, then it's nice. That's it.
Tal vez Cecilia puede, porque Mar del Plata es un poco más amplio y también es...
Sí, nosotros recibimos films for submission. Bueno, este año es un poco particular, pero suelen ser 4.000 películas, más o menos, que se reciben, pero luego sí buscamos nosotros en otros festivales, porque Mar del Plata, esto que decía, que no tiene la dificultad de tener que tener premier, sí o sí. Entonces sí prestamos atención a festivales grandes, pero también a festivales muy pequeños. Pensaba cada año, por ejemplo, para nosotros, Tiradentes o el Yardo Cinema son festivales a los que les prestamos muchísima atención, como puede ser también festivales más pequeños de diferentes países que de donde de alguna manera hay muchas películas que quizás no entran dentro de lo que es el mainstream de festivales, pero donde hay películas que son maravillosas y que las buscamos allí. Pensaba de alguna manera, por ejemplo, bueno, quizás pensando en esto, cuando uno mira una película y la película por sí misma toma una fuerza muy grande dentro de, como decían, 6, 7 películas por día que a veces tenemos que ver cuando estamos programando, pero, por ejemplo, Branco Sai Preto Fica fue una película que, por más que creo que uno hubiese visto 10 películas antes, al ver esa película, la fuerza que tiene emergía por sí misma, ¿no? Y creo que lo interesante cuando uno está mirando películas es esa fuerza que es inexplicable, pero que se percibe al mirarlas, porque lo que hacen esas películas es tomarnos por completo y llevarnos, ¿no? Como movilizan, como desde un lugar de experiencia. Y creo que eso es lo que tratamos de buscar cuando hacemos la selección. Entonces tenemos los films que se inscriben, por un lado, los films que buscamos, y como decían, prestamos mucha atención también a las películas que están en work in progress o en labs, en como prestarles atención, pero ahí hago una reserva, también cuando son películas que vienen con muchos sellos de muchos lugares, también generan cierta desconfianza, hablo a nivel personal, porque siento que pueden estar muy preconfiguradas también, como tengo una parte que entiendo la importancia y otra parte que me despierta cierto temor, como eso.
Es que por cuestión de suscripciones no tengo tanta percepción, tendría todavía, bueno, inglés. So I don't have a lot of perception about I would need to consult the statistics to know. About what Cecilia was just saying, I wonder if it's also a bit of our reluctancia, no sé decirlo en inglés, if we're being reluctant to take a film that has been in many labs because it's been already too out there. It's there's a mixture between what Anna's saying and what you are saying, and somehow you need to expose yourself, but you need to expose yourself wisely also, because there's this thing of which I dislike a lot of us discovering something, and if it's already not such a discovery, it seems somewhat not as important as it could be. But so I think it's a balance thing between I think it's exposing yourself wisely, and it's about what Cecilia was saying, that if you are in a lot of labs, it's somehow you anticipate that the project might be very formulated into what we are expecting, and we, as Anne said, don't want to select something from a label. We want to select something that is unique. So, yeah.
As the questions are arriving and I'm already saying them, I'm changing a little bit the structure of the talk, as people can already send the questions they have. So I'm gonna change a little bit the focus about the films themselves and talk a little bit about the nature of the job. First of all, like to talk about also another thing that's been talked a lot, an urgency this past years about the gender equality in cinema, the Me Too campaign, etc., etc. And I'm very happy to have this table here with three women. Do you think this is something that's changing, and it's changing a little bit the shape of the film festivals, or still has some job to be done?
I think there's a lot to be done still. But since it's nearly my 10th year in Cannes, I could say that when I started, I was the only woman in the committee for long features. There was Laurence for the short films, Laurence Raymond. But for the long features, I was the only woman. For 6 years, I was the only woman in the committee. And even for me, I think I really evolved in this position because I remember I used to say things like, I think this is really a bit weird, this kind of character, blah, blah, blah. And they would say, you say that because you're a woman. And I was like, yes, but I'm also here because I'm a woman. So, have to be a bit coherent. And now, then there was another woman with Edouard already, and now we are 3 women in the committee. And it's not only about being a woman in the committee, it's really having the strength to really take your part of being a woman inside the committee. And it's not only because you're a girl, it's because you have to speak loud also, I would say. You have to tell what you say about movies, but say it even louder than what your colleagues think, I would say. So I think it's changing for sure, and I'm very enthusiastic about that. But I think it's also changing on our part of being attentive, paying attention to this, and it's a bit tiring to have to construct yourself politically, and while you are doing a job where you have to educate people to be educated on this subject, I would say. So it's both, for me at least, it's a 2 times job of thinking, why am I thinking this about this film? And no, I'm sure it's not okay, this film, and I have to speak it loud to convince my colleagues. And sometimes it's a bit tiring, I would say. But I think it's changing, but it's not yet there, because there are, again, so many, I think there are maybe a bit too many old people also. Or it's not really about old, because then it would be difficult, because aging is another subject. So no, but
I understand that what you meant, like this old mentality.
Yes,
in a way,
exactly.
that,
The old mentality
kind of a
is
dinosaur.
really, exactly. It's still there, and against to that, there are really there is a new energy, and we can also sense it inside the movies also. And there are a lot of, for example, this year for Angers, we saw so many movies about gender issues, and it's really super interesting. And you can feel it's a subject now in the filmmaking, so now it has to be also a subject in the programming. But it's exciting because we can feel it, that it's now. But I think it will be even more exciting when it will just be there, and not a lutte. I don't know how to say it. A combat. I don't know. How do you say that? A fight.
Yeah,
a fight. Thank you.
Sí, yo creo que también que no es un camino, pero falta mucho todavía por pelear. En Mar del Plata, por ejemplo, el festival este año es la edición número 35, y recién hace 3 años que dirijo el festival y soy la primera mujer en dirigir el festival. Y eso dice mucho también. Cuando entré a trabajar éramos 2 mujeres, nada más que estábamos trabajando allí, en el comité de selección. Y creo yo también desde que comencé a trabajar, también un poco acorde a una experiencia personal, pero también a un movimiento que es mundial y que en Argentina está muy presente, que es un movimiento justamente que busca igualdad en cuanto a las diferencias que hay, las desigualdades que hay en el mundo del cine. También el festival empezó a cambiar mucho. Entonces, con el comité empezamos a trabajar de otra manera el programa, prestando otra sensibilidad, no solo a las películas realizadas por mujeres, sino también a los discursos que las películas están haciendo circular. Entonces, un cambio cualitativo, pero también cuantitativo, en ambos sentidos. Por otra parte, también se modificaron la conformación de los jurados, el lugar que se le daba a las mujeres dentro del programa, en competencias, fuera de competencia, cortometrajes, largometrajes, conformación de jurados, retrospectivas y focos, porque por supuesto es muy notable y nos reímos de vez en cuando con el comité, porque cuando uno trata de buscar películas para conformar la sección de grandes autores y autoras históricos del cine, los hombres son mayoría, pero cuando uno busca la sección de nuevos autores, nuevas voces, las mujeres son mayoría. Entonces, eso también denota un problema que se ha transitado y que está cambiando. Luego también cuando hacemos las mesas redondas o conversaciones, también buscamos de que haya un equilibrio y priorizar, dar visibilidad al trabajo de mujeres, realizado por mujeres y por divergencia, y diversidades, y también para la escritura del catálogo, para si hacemos un libro también, es como que es transversal, y cabezas de equipo. Como que muchas de las cabezas de equipo del festival están a cargo de mujeres. Y todo eso va haciendo que se cambie la mentalidad de cómo se mira cine, de qué discursos circulan y de qué es lo que uno transmite como festival, además de cambiar las palabras y el lenguaje con el que trabajamos. El catálogo ha cambiado, ya hacemos directoras y directores, antes era siempre notas del director en masculino. ¿Por qué? Entonces eso ha cambiado y este año también, por ejemplo, hemos modificado en la ficha de inscripción para poder tener un poco de estadística, que es algo que estamos también queriendo trabajar un poco. Ya no solo dice director hombre o mujer, sino que contempla diferentes tipos de identidades posibles. Entonces, estamos trabajando en un cambio, no es perfecto, no hemos llegado a un fin, es un camino.
¡Bravo!
Muy bien, Cecilia. Sí, creo que es súper importante. Bueno, no sé si Susana quiere añadir algo, si no, yo voy a pasar a un tema que sorry, go back to English.
I'm speaking in Spanish, but my English is not so good.
I prefer speaking Spanish as well. That's why I'm like every time going to Spanish. But there's an issue that we would have to have a panel for that, and I think it's a complex issue, but to talk about. But I think it's important also that since we're having a panel about challenges of a programmer, that everybody are familiar that this year there was a programmer from Brazil that worked for several different festivals in Europe that was accused by several women of harassment. And apart from that, also not only harassment, but also this work with, he would produce some of the films that were in his festivals. And then he had this position as well as the gatekeeper that had so many power in Brazil for so many festivals. And I would should be like a great discussion, and I'm sorry to bring it up in not that many times that the complexity of the issue would have to discuss. But I would like to talk to you about this thing, as we've discussed in the beginning also, like many programmers work for many film festivals because it's kind of a nature of the job, but then there's this position of gatekeeper, and how like this relation with power and festivals I would like to comment to talk about it with you, to what you think about it.
Well, I think it's important to know that we work for 5, 6, 7 film festivals because our contracts only cover 2 or 3 months, and that is something more due to precarity than to power, I would say. so I think for sure I understand the situation, but I think it's really very important to stay humble, and also it's a bit like a man and woman power thing. You a little bit the power between a director and a programmer, or producer programmer, I would say, because it's something that shouldn't be there, because if there's not a director or a producer or a world sales or I don't know who in front of me, then I wouldn't have a job. And I think it's really I think I'm, sometimes since I work for Cannes, people would say, sorry to disturb you. I'm really sorry. Would you please watch my film? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but of course, that's my job. And if you're not here to give me a film, then I don't get a job. So please be sure of the power you have as a director and a producer. And every level has its form of power. So don't think, or don't even incarnate. No, how do you say incarnate? Don't embody. Voilà, don't embody something that gives me power. I'm not saying that because you're doing it wrong, and for sure not. Because of course, if I think I have power, then I'm doing it wrong. But be careful to not give the power to the programmers, because they don't have it, because they just don't, and it's not about, I think maybe I'm living in Disneyland or something, but it's still about movies, and it's not about people. Of course it's about people, because it's so nice to meet people, and all our jobs is only about meeting people. And often it's in festivals where we're away from home, in hotel rooms, and people who are welcoming the juries are only women, and people are very often super beautiful, and all this industry thing creates some very blurry zones, and that's really due to the industry, I think, of film festivals. And it's really weird that these situations happen. But to come back to the power between director and programmer, I think it should be easy to. No, that's horrible to say. I don't know. I don't want to eliminate people who have been in a weird situation, but I would say, please don't forget that you have some power too, as a filmmaker, director, etc. And don't be shy to speak up, and to come to talk to us, and blah blah blah. That's easy to say, and it's really weird in the sexual harassment context. I'm sorry, but.
I think in regards to the power, it's just that when I think a festival participation can allow a filmmaker perhaps to have funds for his next film. So it is an extremely complex, it's not us, but it is in the end the structures for which we work. So the structures for which we work also should demand ethics from the people that work, and we should have a code of ethics also. But it is true that these structures are a stamp in the career of a filmmaker that can usually, if you are evaluating a project from an upcoming for first feature, that usually includes first and second. If the first has participated in Cannes, boy, it will have a different, so.
No, of course I agree.
It's
but it's
again,
not me as a person, I would say. It's just,
Of course, no, it's just, of course.
Sí, yo creo también como que sumo un poco a eso y estoy convencida de que creo que el mayor problema, o sea, creo que que es el gran problema del reconocer el poder simbólico que uno tiene en un determinado momento a nivel individual por estar trabajando o desarrollándose en algo particular y el poder que tienen los festivales también. Pero hay muchas cruces de poder que se van dando. Está el poder que tienen los productores cuando tienen un film que es el que va a querer todo el mundo, un poder que tienen quienes dirigen las películas, un poder que tiene uno como programador, que uno tiene que ser muy consciente también, pero no para, lo digo en el buen sentido, para tener conciencia de eso y poder manejarse con una ética, el poder que tienen los festivales, el poder que tiene la crítica, el poder que tiene la parte comercial de una película, el poder que tiene un agent sales, los distintos agents, es decir, es un cruce de poderes muy grandes. El tema está, ¿qué se hace con ese poder? Uno, a nivel consciente, individual, cómo se posiciona, cuál es la ética con la que trabaja y qué es lo que permite también de ese poder, cómo circula ese poder. Pero creo que es una responsabilidad múltiple cómo circula ese poder. Creo que es de todas y de todos un poco la responsabilidad de qué hacer con eso. No tengo una respuesta tampoco, pero creo que lo primero es tomar conciencia, hacerse cargo y luego trabajar con una ética humana, desde lo más humano que se pueda llegar a encontrar y una ética laboral. Definitivamente, por más que uno trabaje, pienso yo, trabajo en el Festival de Mar del Plata, pero también realizo junto a Carlos Gutiérrez el programa de Neighboring Scenes, y no es que las películas que yo programo en Mar del Plata pasan directamente a formar parte de Neighboring Scenes, porque primero discuto con equipos de trabajo o con programadores que son diferentes, y cada festival tiene un lugar, un tiempo y un contexto diferente. Entonces las películas igual no van a ser las mismas, porque los programas son diferentes, cambian, tienen otras necesidades. Entonces creo que ahí hay una ética profesional también, de por más que uno trabaje en diferentes festivales, que es cómo trabaja en cada lugar.
Yeah, I guess this is an important thing, and I think this is why this kind of discussion sometimes it's good to have, because one has to acknowledge a little bit of the different powers. It's true, and also I was thinking about when you were talking, Cecilia, that maybe this the nature of this job as well, of going to markets and then sometimes meeting people at a party. This is something that it happens in our job. Maybe it doesn't happen when you're selling, I don't know, plastic. But this is a really important part of our job, to make this networking and stuff. And in places that sometimes are completely like that are moving our workplace to a personal place, and then we really have to have it really separate each one of us, because the world is not separating them. I don't know if I make myself clear in that, but I think it's something that also we have to keep in mind, because since they're so interconnected.
We can also see it positively if we want to, and I think we also should, because since we all travel and know each other, for example, all of us, we met already in real life, hopefully, and I know it happens also that when I'm super disappointed from a movie that I didn't manage to program in Cannes, I would be very happy to tell all the other festivals to program it, and it happens also sometimes that we point out for other festivals, like, oh, did you see this, and how about that one, and since we are,
I think we should do more. It's not
friends, or
I think it's a subject, as a very interesting subject for another talk. I think we should do more. Not everyone is as generous, maybe. And I think we should share more. I think there should be a network, a website, and I don't know how to create it, but there should be, because there are so many films that get lost and that do not get in all of our festivals that we work, and sharing that is not as common as one would think it could be, because I don't know. But continue, interrupted.
It's our job, and we want to get hired to do it also. But hopefully it happens, and some text to Susanna, or she says like, "Oh, did you pay attention to this?" And it's really, hopefully it works also in both ways. So knowing everybody and being a super small engineer.
One can't work in so many festivals. Like I would not recommend something to someone. I mean, I'm always happy. I mean, I have the greatest example with both of you. I can say, like Cecilia, once I was doing a Portuguese film week, and she was going to program a Portuguese film after in Mar del Plata, and I was doing a tiny P of a festival in Buenos Aires, and she said, it's fine if you want to screen this film before our festival. This is in another city. I'll be happy to screen it after. So she was I think I only have this example in my whole career of someone who comes from a big festival and who allows another festival and is not craving this egocentrical exposure of doing a premiere and showing the film first. So it's not as common. I mean, I know that sometimes it's not easy. You need the press, and but it's very. We should think about. We should have a think tank to think about ways how we could optimize this generosity among programmers. Also, could be a good farewell to this talk. As there's, I mean, truly so many ways that we could help each other, because I wouldn't be able to work in 50 festivals. I would welcome the money, but I mean, I'm so happy when someone in some other festival takes a film that I said it was amazing, and I think we all three of us at least are as happy. And I'm sure there's a good chain that could come from thinking about this.
Yeah, I agree. That would be nice.
I really hope that this panel created a new network, festival network. I don't know the name. We can still think a little bit more about the name of it. But we've been discussing in the Industry Academy as well. It's like the network of distribution. And I think the independent cinema really benefits from that. There are too many films being made, and there are so many new voices to come and so many new talents to be shown, and maybe it's a good idea. I would be very happy if you create that after this panel. I don't know if somebody else from the audience has any questions. Here there's another question, but I think it was kind of answered already. Is there a conscious effort to find new voices, new authors every season, or you just focus on what are the best films for the?
I have a comment about that question. I mean, usually I think mature filmmakers get are sometimes overlooked. I think usually you always have festivals. Shall we share the question, or does everyone have access to it? Because there is a question, is there a conscious effort to find new voices, new authors every season, or you just focus on what are the best films for the program? In Rotterdam, at least, there's the main competition section is for first to third features, and there's a lot of festivals out there who are focusing on upcoming filmmakers, so you tend to focus on that to find the upcoming, and it's obviously more difficult for a newcomer to make a new film, and I guess that's also why there's funding for specifically for first features. But then I also have towards the filmmakers who are no longer the first or second timers, and they are like, either they have made it big time and they become already recognized, or otherwise they get into this limbo land of not being a newcomer but not being an established director, and it's sometimes I think they need more help than the newcomers. But I think we are getting close to them. I will mute myself.
Yo pienso en Mar del Plata, buscamos también de encontrar lugar para nuevas voces, y de hecho cada año es como un problema porque, bueno, sobre todo pienso con cine argentino, ¿no? En cuanto al cine argentino, que se produce muchas películas en Argentina y muy buenas, y tenemos un problema también porque hay directoras y directores que se han vuelto como más conocidos, que hacen obras muy buenas, que son muy buenas películas, pero es que si seguimos programando solo sus películas, no hay lugar como para las nuevas voces o nuevas generaciones. Entonces es un poco doloroso y feliz las dos cosas, porque tenemos que dejar de programar películas que quisiéramos programar, también para programar de personas más conocidas, para poder programar películas de nuevas voces que también queremos programar. Y este equilibrio que hay, yo creo que es necesario, porque no se puede hacer solo un festival con lo ya establecido y nada más, porque es necesario siempre que haya un diálogo también con un estado más contemporáneo del cine y las nuevas voces y lo que aportan. Pero bueno, siempre hay que resignar mucho en el camino, y eso creo que es una parte un poco triste también y difícil. Son decisiones muy difíciles, pero tratamos siempre. Este año tenemos muchísimas óperas primas, por ejemplo, en el festival, muchas en competencia. Como también tratar de encontrar dentro del programa a dónde programar quizás las voces más conocidas, y cómo hacer un equilibrio con eso, con las nuevas voces, ¿no? Pienso. Pero cada año cambia mucho.
I'm not sure if Anne wants to say something about this.
Directors Fortnite is not dedicated to first-time films, so we take some. This year there were 3, I think, but it's not the priority for sure. So we have both Alice Furtado and Jodorowsky in the same competition. So we just want new films, but not necessarily new filmmakers, I would say.
Great. So I guess with that we can close. It's really good to talk with about festivals, because we could keep going. We could talk about the pandemic, and there's so many subjects that we could talk, but unfortunately we have short time, and then it's already getting late to Anne in France, getting a little bit late for us. To Cecilia, it's already fine. But I thank you very, very much for your generosity to be here with us. and congratulate you for the amazing jobs that you do, keeping during this this period of so much uncertainty, keep going and fighting for independent cinema. Thank you very, very much, Cecilia and Susana.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, everybody.
And thanks for everybody who was watching. And
Thank you.
Gracias. Obrigada.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.